Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Million Friends podcast. I'm your host Shama Matovu, and in today's episode, as you've probably read from the title that made you click, probably, I don't know, I might just want to be sharing a little bit about not fitting in and feeling like you're too much. I generally feel those things a lot, many times, and there are different reasons that could cause this. Sometimes it could be an internal feeling, other times it could be actual segregation by people. I generally believe that there are people who do mean things to their friends, and sometimes it could just be something that is self-imposed, so you can't really tell. And I'm not really going to go into the thousands and hundreds of reasons why people feel that way. To me, it may have been because of my depth, or sometimes I can be an overthink or something of that sort. And other people, it's maybe because of different tastes or different likes or different backgrounds. So there are many reasons, but I'll just maybe simply give a story to tell where I'm coming from on this topic. So I joined a new school and I was trying to fit in, and I'm trying to fit in. I'm still getting used to the environment. Yeah, it's been 1 year, but I'm still in the process. And I began reading a lot when I was around 10, like reading a lot of these non-fiction books, self-help books and stuff like that. So it had an effect, a good effect actually, on the way I understand and interpret the world, which made me sometimes not to have the same options as my peers and stuff like that. So at some point I kept on feeling left out, because maybe some people would be suggesting an idea in school and they would want to be like, oh, let's go for this party, or let's all do this, or let's do that. And for me, I would think in a different way and I'd be like, no, I don't want to do that. So that already began creating my issues. I'm not going to call them social issues, but I want to just say that that's where kind of the drifting began. Because I remember when I just come to the school, I didn't know exactly how to behave and stuff like that. Like, who are the real friends and who are people who are just going to be with you because you have something. Like, there's so much uncertainty I didn't have. Okay, I just didn't know about many things. And so I just decided to go with, let me just be for the Bible, because I didn't really know it was a new environment. I was from a national school and this is an international, so there are many differences, and I just decided to go with the Bible. Let me just say that. I'm not saying that I played any mini more to choose, but I don't know, I just didn't want to oppose, because I remember in my first weeks I discovered that some people, like it was not like national where we could all have the same opinions, or we'd all be quarreling about maybe why Arsenal is not winning any cup or something like that. This Monday you'd find people quarreling about maybe Trump and whatever. Then the next time they're quarreling about why someone did get voted in America. Like, it was general broader issues and stuff like that. And not just broad issues, but very sensitive topics. Even this Charlie Kirk thing, like, that was a kind of motion that was moving around, abortion and things like that. So I wouldn't just jump in and say I support this, because to be honest, I never really thought about that stuff that much. I'd be like, in my own world, and that's their own world. Like, it's America, this is Uganda. I'm not saying that I was selfish or whatever, but it just did really cross my mind. And so I just would answer with what maybe the Bible would think or something like that. And that created a lot of tension. I'm not saying people in my school, they don't love the Bible, stuff like that, but sometimes I did present the idea the right way and it sounded like I was attacking someone. I'm not going to say sometimes, like, I genuinely apologize for some of those times where I think I didn't articulate myself out well. And so it created that label on me that, oh, Shama is, someone even called me a conservative person. Like, I didn't really know what that meant until I Googled it, like liberal conservative, that kind of jazz. And they're like, you're more of a Trump person. Like, I'm not trying to make that person look bad, but that is how far my views and whatever were aligning. And some may say it's a good thing. Many adults actually usually agree with some of the things I say. But for someone who's growing up, like a teenager, that has a lot of emotional weight on someone, because you often feel like you're left out. And I've never been a crowd person or bandwagon person usually. Okay, I'm never that kind of person, but isolation is not really something that someone young is supposed to go through. And if any parents are watching this, I would just like to maybe ask you to maybe have conversations with your children. Like, not everyone who smiles is always happy inside, and sometimes we children keep a lot of things to ourselves, maybe because we fear judgment that is also from parents. And sometimes even as children, don't ask our parents how they are. Like, sometimes we just don't do that. So in case any of the two categories are watching, please try to find out how someone is doing. Ask them about their day, and not only stop on good or it was fine or I liked it. Try to find out the details, because there are many struggles people go through that we don't share. And so back to my story, to further maybe make this more relatable. I don't want to give specific details because they are sensitive. But basically, I was feeling a lot of that kind of being left out, not because people were bad, but because I had different views. And that is perfectly normal. Don't accuse anyone, don't start making research on who has to take Shama this way. It's perfectly normal. Like when you have a different reasoning, I'm not saying theirs is wrong and I'm not saying mine is right, but when you have a different way you think about things, you're often going to face this kind of opposition. And sometimes it can mean that it is good and you know how these revolutionists are. It can mean that you're starting something that is meant to last longer, or sometimes it can mean that you're on the wrong track. So we're not going to pick sides today. But basically, I'm going to read something that I wrote to myself during that time. Like I usually write, okay, I got this idea from the 5 a.m. Club. It's a book I'm reading. You should go read it. It's a very good book. The idea is basically to jot your thoughts down because writing helps to clarify your mind. I don't know how it does that, but your mind is always trying to forget things and stuff like that. So when you write some of them down, you organize them in a way, and you don't have to like maybe paragraph or whatever. Just I can maybe show you. So I just write down my thoughts, and that actually helps a lot. So I'm going to just maybe try to read it out. But basically, feeling left out is not the end of the world, and you should probably know that. And being too much is also part of life, especially if you're doing something new, something different. But sometimes you should really evaluate to make sure that the problem is not how people are perceiving you, but the problem is actually something maybe you believe in. But anyway, I won't go much into that. Let me read you guys some little text I wrote. So the title is Black Sheep Among White. It reads, I never thought I would admit it, but it's heavy. I sat with some friends and I made a mistake of opening my mouth. And one said he has begun lecturing. And I had uttered one sentence only. Is this really the price? Even when I don't try to, I say something that they take as a lecture. And it's beyond just speaking. I came to discover that my emotional depth is deep. And it often costs me. Why can't I be normal? Why do I make life serious? I joke, I laugh, but there are times when I'm not goofing off, something bad happens. One side says, say let's try to fit in. And another says, stand where the water's clean, you not where they wash you away. Because one thing I accepted is I'll always be like this. I'll always be a black sheep. Maybe if I go on, I will one day tell my story. It will never be easy. The real ones always don't fit in. Please let me be. Not many, but one. Maybe real things cause change. Maybe I should embrace more of my kind. All I agree is that this is who I am. Now, before you start judging what I wrote or anything like that, I was going through a lot at that point. And so I was just pouring out what I thought. And yeah, I talked about something about being deep. And yeah, many people these days, someone online coded it as waking up. So yeah, many people these days are waking up and they are starting to realize or take reality in a different way. Like you find someone who used to scroll or used to do something randomly changing. I can't really explain that because I'm not an expert and I've not studied it. But it's just something that I just want to point out. And so many people have this depth or this side that they have been hiding. Sometimes it's a more true and honest version of themselves, but they have been hiding it, and as time is going on, it is starting to reveal itself because you can never really hide who you are. Who you are will always come out. You can never try to change what you've been. Like you can change where you come from, you can change all the other details, but who God put right here, like right in the heart, you can never change that person. Like you always be the same. And so that's why I believe that there is no bad person in this world. Circumstances or environment made someone the way they are. People are not exactly bad, they're just bitter. So you can never really change who you are. If God made you to like radio and love podcasting and yapping and talking to people, you always be like that. Like I remember there's a point in my life where this also connects to the story. I'm not giving random stories, whereby many people, even some of the people I took so closely to myself, often told me that I talk too much. I remember I was around 10. I reached a point in my life where I was like, let me just go quiet. And so I used to be quiet a lot and stuff like that. That is where I think this emotional depth stuff came from, because I began absorbing more than I put out. I've always been an extrovert, but I began forcing myself to become an introvert. That had a big shift on my life. It caused me to have multiple personalities or stuff like that, and I often still struggle with that. But I'm now becoming more true to myself. But I used to talk a lot, and they would often tell me, you yap a lot, you have so many words, blah blah blah. And yeah, sometimes I used to overtalk, but I was just naturally expressing myself. And sadly, usually it would be around the same exact people, so they would feel like I'm talking all the time. And these days, some people don't say I talk too much because they're not those lucky people who get to hear my over yapping. But that caused me to change who I was and stuff like that. It really had a big change, and that is one of those scenarios where you're the black sheep amongst white. But in the same present day, the same thing was kind of happening, and this time not because of what I was doing, because I reached a point and I got over that. It wasn't a smooth ride, trust me. For over 4 5 years, I was shifting between a talkative person and a quiet person, and many people don't even know that. This is the reason why I actually began keeping quiet so much, but it was because it felt like I was too much, like when I used to overyap and stuff like that, talk too much, and that's part of life. And so I learned to accept that I'm a yapper. What I did was to actually limit how much I do it. So around the people who felt like it was irritating, I talked less, and around the people who are like my friends, I can overyap, I can crack jokes and stuff like that. I'm not saying you begin segregating people, but maybe we should learn to know where our energy is most needed and where it's going to become a problem, because nothing is 100% good or 100% bad. Trust me, quiet Shama was a problem to some. But even in this current time, I find myself often in that, I found myself often in that position where I felt like I was too much. This time not because of over talking, but this time because of depth. Sometimes you talk and you make the environment serious and people just stop listening, or they feel you're lecturing. And it wasn't because I was lecturing or whatever, or because they just hated me, but the tone, or maybe the way I was phrasing myself, made it sound like that, because I generally wasn't trying to do that. And actually it was last year when people overtold me that, and so I tried to stop lecturing, but even this year it continued. So I discovered that it wasn't about what I was saying, but how maybe I was bringing it out. And so it's not the end of life if you're feeling like you're too much, or you're feeling like you don't belong. But maybe all I can say from that experience that I've had, and I know this is just the start, life is still, I'm still green, let me just say that, is to go through this time. First of all, just try to be true to yourself. Like if you depend on external opinions, you never be who you actually are meant to be. Because if someone says, Shama, you're too much, you're going to become too little. If someone says you're not present, you're going to become too much, and you're going to keep on bouncing between these two identities. So I don't know, maybe we should try to lock in who we are, try to know who you are, try to should spend more time finding out who we are at the core. I discovered I'm a talkative person, I'm also a deep person, I'm a warm person, I'm a friendly person, and all that stuff I was trying to hide by trying to be nonchalant and stuff like that, try to be a chill guy like stuff. I'm not saying now you should go and 100% be who you are and make the world a bad place for some people, but on top of knowing who you are at heart, one other thing we should probably, not you, but we should probably put into our lives is knowing best where your energy is needed. And I'm not saying that you now start go and you say, oh, since such a person is saying I'm talkative, I'm not going to talk to them. No, don't do that. That's a very bad idea. Very bad idea. What I try to mean is that maybe try to, first of all, surround yourself with the right people. I know sometimes it's not easy, but for example, in my case, whereby I don't want to lecture anyone, I journal, like whenever I feel like maybe I need to talk to someone, I don't have anyone to talk to. I used to talk to ChatGPT, but I don't have Wi-Fi all the time. So this is actually my second notebook of this year. It's February, so you can pretty much tell how much I've been writing. And it's helping me. Like, I'm not saying you look for lonely ways of doing stuff, but try to make life not a problem for yourself. I don't know how best to put it, because I feel like I'm starting to lecture now. But the thing is that know who you are at core. Like, you should just know who you are. In case you ever want to deal with these things of, oh, Shama, I'm too much, or I feel left out, like, know who you are at core. That is going to be very helpful, because after discovering this, I would have chosen to be with only 2 people or 3 friends who really understand me. But I decided to go full on in with this, and I'm still a very social person. But let me just say, less people say I talk a lot these days. People actually hardly comment, because I try to regulate what comes, or how many words come out of my mouth. I try. And probably those ones in my van would be like, oh, Shama, you're lying, you yap a lot. That's because I'm free. I express myself fully in the van and stuff like that. So I'm not saying you make your community and you yap a lot to them, not to the rest of the world you're quiet. But one of the best cures, okay, it's not a cure because it's not a disease, but one of the best ways to counter being too much is by knowing which space you should probably articulate yourself the most. Or in which way. If your boss doesn't like you yapping a lot, or if your teacher doesn't like you doing that, then yap less to them. Like, find a way of converting that energy. You know, Einstein once said E is equals to MC squared, that jazz. And he was like, energy cannot be created or destroyed, it's just transferred, like matter and stuff, that kind of jazz. So don't destroy your energy, don't try to hide it, because it's going to explode. Trust me on that one. You're going to end up becoming broken if you actually go down that path. The fastest way to break your heart is not to get a girlfriend or boyfriend or to kill someone you love. Don't do that. I probably never. I want to cut that out in editing. The fastest way is not to get a girlfriend or boyfriend, but the fastest way to break your heart is by not being true to yourself. So be true to yourself. Like, that is the best way you can actually ever solve this, because you're going to be more intentional with who you spend your time with and what you give to that person. Because if you give what is valuable to someone who's not going to value it, it's going to lose value. That's going to make you feel like you've lost value, which is not the case. So I'm not saying you should segregate who you give what to, but know what to give to who. Like, I still talk to everyone the same way. I'm still the same Shama, but some people are going to say that Shama is a good friend, another person is going to say Shama is a good friend. But back then they'll say Shama talks too much or Shama over lectures. So I just reduced that and tried to make sure that I'm not saying I found a balance. I just became true to myself. For example, starting this podcast, like, instead of stressing about, oh, I don't fit in, and I'm now trying to turn that into an energy, like sharing my story, because I hope this video didn't lecture, but hopefully you get my point when I'm trying to talk about not fitting in. It's always going to be a part of life, as long as you're trying to do something different. And it may not be different in the sense as a new revolution, but basically we're all different people. So not fitting in is always going to be a part of life. Being too much could also be a part of life. But one encouragement I would like to maybe share is that as long as you're doing something that is not what everyone else is doing, you're going to face those too, and brace yourself for it. Brace yourself. You should probably surround yourself with the people who complement your energy, not reduce it. Even Jesus did that by choosing 12 apostles, not talking to everyone. He had the Pharisees, who were a constant hate group, but he had the apostles to talk to. He shared sweet moments with them. So also have those one or two homies or buddies that just complement your energy. And if you completely have no one, which is a very rare case, be at peace with yourself. Talk to the Holy Spirit. I don't know. Don't become a lonely person. And whatever you do, guys, like, I don't know who I'm talking to out there. I don't know if this video is going to get 2 views or 5 views, but just be true to yourself. If you're a social person and you're feeling like you're too much and you try to become an introvert to hide that is going to be the fastest way to break yourself. You're going to become a more miserable person. You're going to become a sad person. So if you're feeling like you're too much, in simple terms, just know who you are and know what to give to whom. That's all I should really say. This episode has been long, but I really hope I got a point across. And I hope that I'll talk to maybe one of you in the future who will be like, oh, Shama, I'm also going through this. Maybe you could share your story, maybe in the comments, or maybe send me a message on Instagram at ShamaMatov247. The same name as the channel is the same name of my Instagram. I don't know who this is going to help, and I know it's been long, but I'll end this show here. I'll end this episode here. This has been a Million Friends podcast with your host, Samuel Shama Matovu. With that being said, I would love to end this radio star podcast here. Hopefully I didn't lecture you, and I hope you have a good day or a good night. Be blessed in all you do.